Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Izuku POV. After returning from the hospital, Izuku milled around his home for about a week. He'd been deliberately avoiding his friends out of fear of what they would think of him after the Kamino incident. Well, it's not like he wouldn't be seeing them soon. Summer was almost over, and with that thing Nizu told him out at the hospital after God left, he'd be seeing a lot more of them. Speaking of what happened at the hospital, Izuku still found it hard to believe his mom still loved him after she saw what he did after he killed the world. Izuku looked at his darling little sister Eri, who was currently sitting on the sofa watching Miss Kobayashi's dragon made with a smile. He smiles also, happy to see his sister smiling. It initially took a bit of time to get her to do so. After going through so much hell, Izuku feared she might never smile, but when it happened, Izuku truly felt like a hero. I may have been a monster in my past life, but right here, right now, I can be a hero. Izuku thinks to himself as he recalls all of his actions in this new world he'd been reincarnated into. Besting the sludge villain twice, dominating the entrance exam, defeating the USJ Nomu, scaring Stain, killing another Nomu, fighting Toga twice, crushing Muscular, killing yet another Nomu, saving Ragdoll, and beating AFO. But most of all, he made friends who he will now keep safe from the monster that made him kill the world. I will never stop standing in the way of that ominous future. This I vow. Izuku promises himself as he looks at his sister's smile. Ding. Suddenly, he then got a message on his phone, and when he saw who it was from, he was certainly surprised. The name of the messenger read, Ipan Josei. Public library. What am I doing here? Izuku asked himself as he stood outside the public library in Mizuta-fu. The previous day he'd gotten a text from Josie asking to meet him here, and he still couldn't figure out why. It's not like they knew each other beyond a basic understanding and a few other things they talked about at the beach. Though Izuku couldn't deny it was nice I hear from her. Well, as they say, fortune favors the bold. He tells himself as he enters. Upon entry, Izuku looked around and saw that the library was mostly empty other than a few people in the computer section and the receptionist who just so happened to be Ipan Josei. Oh, hello, I'm Midoriya. Josei says with a wave and a smile as she sees him. Hey, Josei. You okay? You asked to meet here yesterday. Is everything going well? Izuku replied kindly as he asked if she was all right. Why, yes, I'm fine, really. She affirmed as she left her desk. You sure? 'Cause if you need help with anything, just ask. Izuku states in a heroic manner. No, really, everything's fine, I just wanted to talk to you. She explained as she began walking towards an area of the library. Are you just allowed to leave your post like this? Izuku asked curiously. Don't worry, it'll be fine. The library is usually very quiet on weekends, and villains don't tend to attack or rob bookshops and libraries. Plus, my boss is very unobservant. She replied as she led him to the private area she wanted to talk in. She led him to a rather private corner of the library where she pulled up a chair for him. It was obvious she was familiar with the building beyond just working there. Are you comfy? She asked as she sat in a chair that was a bit too small for her size. Yes, but more importantly, are you comfy? These chairs seem a bit small for you. Izuku replied. It's fine. I've been coming to this library for over a decade and a half. I'm used to it. She replied as she adjusted herself to fit. The air turned awkwardly quiet after that as neither of them knew how to continue the conversation. So I saw you on the news recently. Josei blurted out. Oh really? What was it about? He asked, already knowing what she was going on about. The Kamino incident. You fought that villain who mutated, alongside Endeavor, Maruko, and that older hero in yellow. She recounted. Yeah, I suppose I did. You know I can't tell you anything about that, right? Izuku replied. I figured as much. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Josei explained in half-truths. Well, as you can see, I'm still one piece. Izuku replied as he gestured to himself. I can see that. You know, it's very impressive that a first year could survive an encounter like that, let alone one without a quirk. Josei praised with a small smile. How did you know I was a first year? He asked curiously. The broadcast that had UA apologizing, one of the journalists leaked your information. She explained. He already knew this, of course, having seen the same broadcast, but he was still confused as to why she brought the fact itself. The part about the fight with AFO and him being quirkless was warranted, but his age wasn't. So you know I'm a first year at UA University. Why does that matter? Izuku asked as Josie I squirmed a little bit. It means you're 18 or 19, and while she awkwardly explained much to Izuku's surprise. He'd been trying to guess her age as whenever they interacted and couldn't pin it down. Then again, mutants were difficult to accurately age. He once met a man with a tortoise quirk that made him look ancient, but was only in his 30s. Okay, we're closer in age than we both initially thought. Why does that matter? Izuku asked as he outlined the facts. It doesn't, I just thought it was interesting. She quickly replied. Okay, so you really just called me here to see if I was okay? Is that really the only reason you messaged me? Izuku asked curiously as he tried to comprehend Josie I's intentions. Yes. I just wanted to see if you were okay, and maybe, perhaps if you're not busy or anything, of course hang out like we did at the beach. She requested awkwardly, as if expecting to be denied. Izuku just looked at her for a second as he absorbed the information. He was about to reply, only for her to get flustered and try to leave. Oh, this was stupid. I'm just wasting your time. You probably have other friends to hang out with anyway. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'll leave you alone. She muttered swiftly in a flustered manner as she tried to leave, only for Izuku to stop her by grabbing her hand. No, it's fine, Josie. I'd actually like to hang out with you as well. If you're okay with that, that is. Izuku replied as he looked her in the eye with a smile. She blushed in response and sat back down with a smile of her own. Thank you, Midoriya. I don't often get the opportunity to hang out with friends. She replied softly. Well, I'm happy to keep such a lovely lady company. Izuku retorted with unintentional suaveness. Josie I blushed again, but quickly composed herself before readjusting herself in the seat again. The two of them then spent the better part of 2 hours just chilling together. They read books, discussed literature, and just vibed. For those 2 hours, they discussed far more than just books, however. They talked about movies, first heroes, favorite foods, childhood stories, and much more. Eventually, as time flew by, the two began to cultivate an understanding about one another. A friendship was blossoming, and perhaps something more. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, which in this case was when the clock struck 13. It's nearly 1:30 already? Goodness, we must have lost track of time. Josie I exclaimed as she looked at the clock in her watch. Is the time significant in any way? Izuku asked. Yes, it's closing time. We asked us to close early on weekends. Oh, I do hope no one realized I wasn't at the desk for so long. Ippan replied as she looked around to ensure no one was looking for her. Then I guess we'll have to continue our discussion some other time then. Izuku stated in a letdown tone. He was enjoying her company, and now it was time to close up. As he got up to leave, however, Midoriya, would you like to get some lunch with me? Ippan asked awkwardly. Yes, absolutely, I'd polite coffee or sure. I'd be happy to accompany you. Izuku replied kindly as the two of them got up to go get lunch. Yay, she whispered with a bit of bounce as they left the building. I know a lovely food stand in the park, if that's all right with you, that is. She explained nervously. Perfect, lead the way. Izuku replied as he let her take the lead. Public park. Josie I led them to the local park that Izuku himself had enjoyed when was younger. A few nostalgic memories sprang up when he saw the park's old playground equipment and lunch stand. Memories of him and his mother having fun, followed by memories of him training himself to master his old life's techniques. Haven't been here in a while, Izuku mentioned as they sat down on a bench after grabbing their lunches. You used to come here? Josie I asked. Yeah, with my mom when I was younger. It's also where I used to practice some martial arts before finding a more secluded area. Izuku explained as he ate his sandwich. Really? Me too. My father brought me here every day after school, and we'd play together on the apparatus until I fell asleep, and he'd carry me home. Josie I explained with excitement before a somber look befell her face. I'm guessing your father is a sensitive subject? Izuku asked intuitively. Yes, he died 4 years ago, just after my birthday. He had a late-stage tumor in his lung. They only found it accidentally when he went for a checkup concerning a bad cough he'd recently been having. Josie I explained somberly. I'm sorry, Josie I shouldn't have asked. Izuku replied kindly. At least you still have your mother. He added, hoping to alleviate the situation. Yes, I suppose. Even though she works constantly, she always makes time on Sundays to call me. Josie I replied with a smile. What about your parents? What are they like? She asked. Well, my mother is a saint who's as affectionate as she is disciplining. She had to be to deal with my nonsense. Izuku elaborated, getting a chuckle from Josei. What of your father? She asked, and now it was Izuku's turn to act somber. An utter deadbeat who I haven't seen in over a decade and don't want to see ever again. Izuku replied coldly. After that, the conversation ended as they ate their lunches. As they are, Izuku regretted the way he answered. He couldn't help it. He just couldn't act warm when his SBRM donor was brought up. However, the way he acted likely made Josei uncomfortable, and he didn't want that. He was about to apologize when, how about we take a stroll? Josei suggested as she stood after having eaten her lunch. Sure. Izuku replied, slightly caught off guard. The two of them then began walking through the park together. The walk was refreshing and brought back a lot of memories for Izuku when he looked at the apparatus he used to use for training and recreation. Although, as the two of them strolled through the park, however, Izuku noticed something. As they walked, Josei looked rather nervous, and as he looked around he saw why. Many children were staring at her, as well as some adults. Oh, I see. She's self-conscious about her appearance because of all the people staring at her. Izuku concluded as he held his friend's hand, pulling her out of her nervous trance. Midoriya, what are you doing? We can't handhold in public. What would these people think of you? Josei panicked at the gesture, thinking the worst. I'm holding your hand to make you feel safe since you're clearly anxious in public. As for what a bunch of strangers think of me, I genuinely couldn't care less. Izuku replied with a smile. My father used to say the same thing. Whenever I was upset about things people said about me, he'd also tell me that the words of strangers meant nothing since they didn't know me like he did. Josei explained with a smile as she remembered her father. Did people say nasty things often? Izuku asked as Josei stopped walking and sat on a nearby bench. When I was in school, my quirk already made me the center of attention and ridicule. My height, my fur color, my sharp teeth, Josei states sadly as they sit. Any parties' names in particular? Izuku asked as his aura flared up slightly. I never really bothered to learn their names. They'd just be a drop on the bucket of names of people you made fun of me for my appearance and shy nature. Josei replied as tears began forming. Did they ever try and hurt you? Izuku asked as he placed a hand over hers to comfort her. No, they always just avoided me and spoke just within earshot. Josei explained as she began to softly cry. Well then, it's clear you only ever went to school with idiots. Izuku retorted, stunning Josei. Your father was right. Listening to strangers is dumb because all they see is what they only see what they want to believe, and listening to them isn't worth your time. Izuku explained as he turned to her. And if you want my opinion, I can't see why people would avoid or make fun of you in any capacity. I mean, you're intelligent, funny, and appealing. What's there to dislike? Izuku asserted, immediately blushing as his brain caught up with his mouth and saw Josei blush. I mean, well, you see, what I meant to say was Izuku stuttered as he tried to explain himself. It's okay, Midoriya. You don't need to explain yourself or apologize. Josei replied kindly as she wiped her tears, and they both silenced as the awkwardness increased. The two of them then sat there, awkwardly eating their sandwiches, and both trying to think of something to say that would diffuse the anxiety. Thankfully, something came up that did it for them. Mommy. A voice cried out from the nearby woods, catching their attention. Oh, thank you God. A person in trouble. Something to distract from this crushing awkwardness. Izuku thought in reverence as he and Josei approached where the crying was coming from. They walked into a heavily wooded area of the park, only to find a little girl around Aries' age crying. Hey, it's all right. Are you okay? Izuku asked as he knelt down to talk to the girl. The girl in response hid behind a tree in fear. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Izuku, what's yours? Izuku asked to try and endear himself. Hey, Asuna. The little girl replied as she walked out from behind the tree. That's a nice name, Asuna. Are you lost? Izuku asked as he emitted a kind aura. As Izuku was trying to help the girl, Josei stood back in awe of his kindness. Midoriya had never met this child, and yet his kindness let him immediately help out. He's so kind to everyone he meets. Josei thought to herself as certain images came to her mind that made her blush. No, he'd never, but perhaps maybe no. It's dumb. She mentally debated as Izuku helped out little Asuna. Eventually, he got the girl to trust him, and after returning the girl to her mother, The two of them enjoyed the rest of the day at the park. Josei's opinions of Izuku having strengthened considerably. Eventually, though, as the sun got low in the sky, they knew their time together was coming to an end. Thus, they began to walk home. Evening. After their fun at the park, the two of them made their way back to Josei's apartment complex. She'd told Izuku she'd be fine on her own, but he insisted on walking with her just in case. What a gentleman. As they walked, Josei decided to ask something that had been in the back of her head all day. Midoriya? Josei asked. What up? Izuku replied. Did you mean those things that you said earlier today? She asked timidly. I said a lot of things earlier today. Izuku replied jokingly. I mean the part where you called me intelligent, funny, and appealing. She explained, which caught Izuku off guard. He'd been hoping she'd forgotten that. His mouth had moved without his brain's input. Yes, I meant every word, because well, it's all true, Josei. The way you talk, your sense of humor, the way you look, it's all incredible. Izuku affirmed, causing them both to blush even more as they walked to her apartment. It was nice to spend the day with you, Izuku. Josei states, using his name for the first time that day. Likewise, Ippan. Izuku replies in kind with a smile. The two then awkwardly stood around not looking at one another, before Ippan finally spoke. Well, this is me. I hope we can do this again sometime. Ippan declares. Me too. I look forward to the next we meet. Well, see you next time then. Izuku replied as he went to leave. Only got Ippan to stop him by grabbing his wrist. Is there something you forgot, Ippan? He asked as he turned to see the young woman blushing furiously. Then, before he could ask if she was okay, she leaned in. Chew! And kissed him on the cheek, before swiftly pulling back and rushing to her front door, leaving Izuku to absorb what just happened. Izuku stood there for a solid 5 to 10 minutes before his motor functions kicked into autopilot and walked him home, his mind in a complete trance. Midoriya household. It was around 2040 when Izuku got home, and by then he'd managed to snap out of the trance he'd been in. Hey Mom, I'm home. Izuku announced as he walked in. Hello dear. You're back rather late, aren't you? It's nearly 9 o'clock. Inko replied as she pointed out the time of his return. Sorry Mom, I lost track of time. How's Eri doing actually? She usually comes running. Izuku replied. She's asleep, dear. She wanted to wait for you, but it was well past her bedtime. Now come on, I saved you some leftovers. Inko replied in her usual motherly tone. Best mom in the multiverse. Izuku thought to himself as his mom heated the leftovers. So, what occupied your attention so much that you ended up out all day? Inko asked as she sat with her son as he ate. I didn't initially plan to be out all day. It's just that I ended up hanging out with Ippan all day, then we got lunch together, and things just spiraled. Izuku replied, still somewhat out of it as he ate. Ippan. But that's a girl's name. Inko retorted, causing Izuku to choke on his food. Mom. Wait. I can explain. Izuku tried to interject, but it was too late. His mother had that look in her eye. Oh, my baby boy is all grown up now. He's even taking girls on dates. Inko announces with motherly pride, causing Izuku to blush. Wasn't a date, Mom. We just hung out is all. Izuku retorted as he tried to control his BLD pressure with breathing control. Sweetie, a young woman asked you to spend time with her doing something she enjoys. You spent the entire day together, and you had lunch together. Now stop me if I'm wrong, which I rarely am in matters such as this, but that sounds an awful lot like a date to me. Inko explained with a smug smile that held both promises of teasing and pride. It wasn't a date, Mom. Izuku denied loudly as he began to ascend the stairs to his room, only to suddenly stop. Mom, what does it mean when, say hypothetically speaking of course, when someone kisses you on the cheek? Izuku asked as he walked up the stairs. Inko just gave him a big smug smile that spoke 1,000 words. It wasn't a date. All right, Izuku declared as he dashed upstairs. Izuku bedroom. After whatever that was, Izuku decided to take an early night. So he stripped off, took a quick shower, brushed his teeth, threw on some pajamas, and went to bed. As soon as Izuku's head hit his soft pillow, however, glass break. His eyes suddenly shoot open. He suddenly sat up in bed as he came to a sudden realization. It was a date. He cries out as he hears his mom laughing from her room. Island. Meanwhile, as Izuku enjoys his outing, and UA prepares for monsters, a certain blonde inventor gets an email from a certain dean. Izuku POV. After his date with Ippan, Izuku spent the last few days of summer relaxing with Eri and his mom, until eventually, he could no longer avoid his friends. Earlier in the month, the Midoriya household got a house visit from Nizu and Aizawa. They were there to talk to Izuku and his mother about him potentially moving into the new UA dormitories which UA had just built, apparently. Initially, he was skeptical about moving away from his mom and sister. But when he brought that up, Nizu simply offered them both a room in the dorms. When pressed for details as to why, Nizu simply explained that the forms would need an overseer and Inko easily fit the bill. He also wanted to make sure young Eri was safe since it turned out the Yakuza was now working with the League, meaning they could try using Kurogiri to get her back. With those explanations out of the way, the family all agreed to move into the dorms together. Izuku was looking forward to going back now right up until he saw his mother packing the photo albums. Definitely going to need to hide those, Izuku thought to himself as he packed his stuff. Dorms. Then, at last, the day arrived for Izuku to face his friends after what happened at Kamino. God, this is nerve-wracking. I feel like I'd rather fight AFO again than do this. He thought to himself as he looked at the massive H-shaped dorms. Was that shape even structurally safe for a building? Anyway, he decided that he should just get it over with. Otherwise, he'd just be standing there all day. And so with a deep breath, B entered the dorm building. When he entered, he saw his classmates all milling around the main common room in their little friend groups. Mino was talking animatedly with Hagakure and Yurika, as well as Toki. Momo was chilling with Jiro and Tsu, whilst Todoroki ate soba. Sato and Ojiro were eating snacks on the sofa, whilst Kaminari and Shiro played video games. Koda was hanging out with Tokoyami and Shoji, whilst they all stroked the quiet boy's pet rabbit. Mineta was arm wrestling Kirishima and losing. Ito was reading. And lastly, Aoyama was posing in a mirror. Izuku had no idea how to break the ice. Thankfully, however, he didn't need to. Eri did it for him. Hello, everyone. Eri says out loud, catching everyone's attention. Immediately, half the class went to greet his adorable little sister. Hey, Eribro, you good? Kirishima asked as the two of them fist bumped. I'm okay, Uncle Kiri. Eri replied using the nickname she'd graced Kirishima with. She'd given one to everyone in the class, and they over her for it. As everyone was basking in Eri's adorable presence, Izuku suddenly felt less afraid of facing his classmates. So do I get a hello? He asked, finally causing the others to register his existence. Izuku, you're alive. Yurika cried out as she hugged him. Of course I'm alive. You think a supervillain is enough to put me down? Izuku replied. Jokingly. Don't joke, Midoriya. We feared the worst since you never contacted us. Ida scolded him. Wait, you guys thought I was dead? He asked as he looked around the room at the faces of his friends. I've been an utter moron, haven't I? He tells himself before hugging Yurika back. I'm sorry for not contacting you guys. It's just that I feared what you guys would think of me after what happened at Kamino. He explained. Did you believe we'd think less of you for doing what did? Momo asked as he nodded in response. But we're your friends, and according to my research, friends stick together no matter what, right? Todoroki pointed wisely. I know. It's just I was afraid you guys might be scared of me because of what I did Kamino. Izuku replied, referring to the Noma slaughter and spearing attack. Why should we be scared of you, dude? I mean, we all know on the inside you're a total softie. Kaminari points out as he points at Eri as a reference to his kindness. So you guys aren't afraid of me, and you don't hate me for what I did? Izuku asked, and the class group hugged him in solidarity with their answer. You guys are the best friends a former hunter could ever ask for. Izuku tells himself as he embraces the hug wholeheartedly. Eventually, the hug disbanded and Izuku felt a lot better after getting that encounter out of the way, but then came the questions. So what the heck was with the villain? Jiro asked. Why did he mutate like that? Shiro added. What happened to All Might? Mineta compounded. All of your questions will be answers later. A voice states, catching everyone's attention. It was Aizawa who had just turned up. Hello, Aizawa-sensei. How was your summer? Ida asked back to his robotic ways. Miserable, but that's not important right now. Aizawa replied before continuing. What is important is what happened at Kamino, but you'll all be informed of that later. Right now we need to get introductions out the way. Aizawa explains as he moves towards Inko. This is Inko Midoriya. She'll be your overseer for your time in the dorms. Aizawa explained as Inko stepped forward. Hello there, I'm Inko. Some of you may already know me, but for those who don't, it's nice to meet you all. Inko announced in a kindly tone. Wait, Midoriya? Are you? Mina asked as she pointed between Inko and Izuku. Yes, I am in fact Izuku's mother. Inko confirmed. Miss Midoriya here was initially hired as a nurse for UA, but will now act as dorm supervisor as well as a leash holder for her son. Aizawa explained before adding a quick bit at the end. How dare you? Why would I need a leash in the first place? Let alone someone to hold it. Izuku demanded, slightly miffed at the implied accusations. You want the list in alphabetical or chronological order, Midori? Hagakure asked, causing the class to snicker at his expense. I should be upset at this, but I can't bring myself to dislike you guys. Izuku thinks to himself as he smiles. And then the smile went away when a certain diminutive classmate reverted to type. Man, Midoriya's mom is hot. Mineta drooled as he looked at Inko. Despite how perverted that was, Izuku couldn't deny that despite her age his mom was pretty. Choking noises. I mean, she was in her 40s and still caused young men's heads to turn. Choking noises get louder. It probably helped that she exercised and was in brilliant shape for her age. Choking noises get even louder. Plus her kind and caring, yet firm and determined personality was a draw for many people. Choking noises are now even louder. Does someone want to check on that? Izuku, Midoriya, release your classmate at once. Inko ordered, snapping Izuku out of his thoughts, only to discover he'd been choking Mineta for about 5 straight minutes, and the young man was now as purple as his hair. Oh whoops. Sorry about that, Mineta. Guess I went into autopilot. Izuku apologized as he dropped the diminutive student, who began gasping for air. Anyway, as for why Eri is here. She is here for protection, since the Yakuza now have access to the League's teleporter quirk and might want her back. Aizawa continued as the class immediately got serious. The League and Yakuza could only have her back only if they could pry their sweet unicorn child from their cold, dead hands. Moving on, along with the new dorms, Overseer, and Charge, you're all also getting a new classmate sort of. Aizawa states as he realizes what he'd signed up. The doors of the building then opened to reveal someone a handful of the class already recognized. Hello everyone. It's good to see you all again. Melissa Shield greets kindly as she entered the dorm. Oh my god. Melissa, you're here as well? Momo cried out as she went to hug her American friend. Yes, yes, I'm here as well. Melissa replied as Momo hugged her. Hey Midori, who's she? Mina asked curiously. Melissa Shield. We met her back on Island. She helped us during the incident that occurred that night. Izuku replied, as everyone looked at Melissa, remembering the incident he referred to. The attack on Island made international news, and the media was filled with a billion theories on what had happened. Island itself was independent enough to prevent interviews, and kept the whole matter an internal investigation. However, a few pictures did manage to make their way onto the internet, such as one of a massive, monstrous villain being split in half by someone. A couple news outlets thought it was All Might, but others thought the individual wasn't big enough. Only a few people truly knew what had occurred that night. And now, one of the people who knew what happened was in their own dorms. Izuku is correct. I am Melissa Shield, and it's nice to meet you all. Melissa confined as she expanded her Momo hug. One by one she was introduced to every class member she had yet to meet, each one giving her a hug, sans Todoroki, who was still a bit socially awkward. Eventually, she turned her attention to Izuku. Hey Melissa. Izuku greets as he approaches the pile of people currently hugging Melissa. Hey Izuku, it's great to see you again. Melissa replied as she unstuck herself from the pile of people. How have you been since the whole? Well, you know? Izuku asked, not sure if the subject was a sure spot or not. Since my father and his assistant created a piece of illegal technology, then used mercenaries to steal it, and then said mercenaries destroyed the main tower whilst fighting you and my uncle? I've been better. She replied, casually taking the class by surprise. Right, yeah, that. You been okay since then? Izuku asked. Yes, actually. And it's because of you actually. Melissa's responded. Really? How's that then? Izuku inquired. You'll have to wait and see for that answer, Mr. Monster Slayer. Melissa answered with a smug look. After that, the rest of the class introduced themselves to Melissa. Inko and Eri reacquainted themselves with her, and all was right with the world, well, for now at least. The class then asked Melissa questions about herself, which she was more than willing to answer. Eventually, however, the main question came up. What's your quirk? Sue asked bluntly as ever. Yeah, what is it, Melly? I bet it makes you super smart or something. Mina asked excitedly. Well, actually, you see, I don't have one. I'm quirkless. Melissa replied hesitantly. Wait, really? That must mean you're super smart on your own then. Hagakure cried out kindly. You don't mind? Melissa asked. Why should we? I mean, Midoribro is quirkless, and he's the strongest guy in the whole university. Kirishima responded as he hyped up his bro. Melissa, a little taken aback, looked at all the class members to confirm Kirishima's words. Not one face held any hint of falsehood about their acceptance of her quirklessness. Thank you, Melissa stated with a smile. Following the introductions, Mina suggested they all tour each other's room to indoctrinate Melissa into their class, as well as learn everyone's dirty secrets. Common room. After touring each other's rooms, and unfortunately finding no embarrassing secrets, as well as the rest of the building, the class all gathered in the common room, as Aizawa had something to announce. Now I know that after Kamino you're all probably a little sick of hearing bad news, but too bad because I've got some. I suggest you all brace yourselves for what I'm about to tell you. Aizawa states in a weary tone. The coffee machine only serves decaf. We're all doomed. Kaminari joked, getting a couple laughs. This is serious. Aizawa yelled, catching them all off guard and locking their attention. Now I can't believe I'm about to say this, but monsters are real. Aizawa stated bluntly. Excuse me, sir, but did you just say monster are real? Ida asked. Correct. Monsters, real breathing, human-killing monsters, are real, and we've already seen a few of them. Aizawa explained. Sir, if I'm not mistaken, but isn't April Fool's next year? Why are you going on about monsters? Momo asked. I wish this was a joke, Yaoyorozu, but it isn't. It's real, and monsters are real. Aizawa affirms as he looks at his class. Guys, I don't think he's joking. Kirishima states as the class goes pale. I'm not joking. Alongside villains, we now have to deal with monsters who want to kill us. Aizawa states bluntly. Are you certain they're monsters, sir, and not just mutants? Shoji asked. Nizu and Island have both done independent investigations into the DNA of the corpses. All 3 times they possessed completely non-human genetics. Aizawa explains. Hold on, you said we'd met a few already. Who are they? Todoroki asked. Wolfram from Island, Himiko Toga from the mall and campground incidents, and the villain from Kamino Ward. Aizawa replied explicitly. Wait, I thought Wolfram just had some type of transformation quirk, and that villain from Kamino started out human. How do humans become monsters? Melissa points out. Because humans can become monsters. Izuku interjects. What do you mean, Midoribro? Kirishima asked. Let me explain. When a human being indulges in absolute obsession, when they become utterly disillusioned with life, and if they hate their fellow man enough to fully reject their humanity, they can undergo a process called monsterization. This transformation causes the person to cast aside their humanity to mutate and attain power unlike anything you've ever seen before. Izuku explained, stubbing his classmates. How do you know this, Midori? Mina asked fearfully. Because the same thing that causes monsterization can help humans to break their limits and shatter the boundaries of humanity. Izuku lied, using his self-control so not let Jiro discover it. Wait, does that mean that you? Yururika asked fearfully. I'm not a monster if that's what you're thinking. No, I'm still 100% human. Izuku replies. How did you discover this information? Ida asked as everyone looked at Izuku. When I was training, I met a guy who quirk made him travel between dimensions. He showed me a world where quirks didn't exist, and where monsters as strong as and stronger than all might menace humanity. Izuku lied since he couldn't tell them he was reincarnated from that world. How did this world fight back? Melissa asked as her kind ran 1,000,000 miles a second at the information she was being told. Parallel worlds existed. Vigilante heroes without any powers emerged to fight and slay the monsters in defense of mankind. Eventually, the governments of that world created the Hero Association to organize the heroes and counter the monsters. He continued, hoping they bought the story he and Nizu had cooked up. So wait, you're saying that on this other world that heroes don't use quirks to fight, but instead simply train to become strong? Zero asked. Correct. In fact, on that world, the only real powers anyone could ever hope to have were being born an Esper, but that was inconceivably rare. Izuku replied. What kind of heroes were there? Yururika asked. I met heroes who could shatter buildings and kill demon-level monsters in a single punch, move faster than light, endure skyscrapers collapsing on them, and split the Earth's surface. Izuku explained as his classmates listened in awe. Did one of them train you? Todoroki asked. Yes. I met a martial arts MSTR on his 80s who was almost as strong as All Might, and he and his brother taught me their techniques. Izuku replied using half-truths. Hold on. What did you mean by demon-level monsters, and why did they have to kill them? Momo inquired. The Hero Association created a ranking system for the monsters based on how dangerous they were. The categories consisted of wolf, tiger, demon, dragon, and god. Wolf-level monsters were potential threats to small numbers of people. Tiger levels threatened large numbers of people. Demon-level monsters endangered entire cities. Dragon levels imperiled multiple cities. And god levels pose a risk to the entire human race. As for why they killed them, the monsters weren't people, not anymore. They'd willingly sacrificed their humanity to become strong, and no prison could hold anything above a tiger level. Izuku explains as his class went pale at the descriptions. How often did the higher-level monsters show up? Mineta asked in fear. They initially weren't common, but they soon began popping up more frequently, to the lobby where two god-level threats showed up with a few months of one another. An alien that attacked Earth, and an Esper who merged with a dragon level. Izuku replied, and was purposefully vague about Boros and the fusion of Psychos and Orochi. So things like that are going to start appearing? Mina asked, almost frying in fear. Unfortunately, yes. But there is a silver lining. I can train you all to be strong enough to counter these threats, and we can cancel the apocalypse as a team. Izuku replied in an inspiring manner. However, if you want to back out now, if you don't want to fight and kill for the future, then I understand. It takes as much bravery to run towards a fight as it does to run from one. Izuku continued, as he gave them a potential out. The room went quiet after that as the class absorbed the information they'd just been given. That monsters, some as strong, or even stronger than All Might, could end up appearing and attacking them with murderous intent. But if what Midoriya said was true, they could become strong enough to stand against them. They could keep their loved ones safe from harm. After a few minutes, Kirishima stepped forward, followed by Yururika, then the rest of the class and Melissa. We're in, bro. No one dies on one's watch. Kirishima said enthusiastically. He's right, Izuku. We couldn't call ourselves heroes if ran from a fight. Ochiko added with her scary determination. Then entire class gave their support, whether it was to conquer fear, to protect other, or even get a HRM. They were all, and then they got to Melissa. This'll be the perfect time to test my more lethal weapons. Melissa states with resolve. The class looked at her in a confused manner. What? She asked. Oh right, I almost forgot about that. In half an hour, you will all meet me at Gamma Field, as apparently Miss Shield has something to demonstrate. Aizawa explained as he went to sleep. Gamma Field. Following that whole process, the class went to Gamma Field for the demonstration on whatever it was that had Melissa so excited. Though strangely enough, Melissa herself went in the other direction. So, you guys sure you're up for fighting monsters? Izuku asked as they entered the field. Hell yeah, bro. None of us are quitting just because a few tough decisions need to be made. Kirishima states with a smile. Okay, it's just that. I want to make sure that you guys understand that. You might have to kill something that was at one point human. Izuku explains. Whilst the thought of killing is not a pleasant one, you've told us that no prison in the other world could hold these creatures. So whilst we will take no pleasure in ending their lives, we know it's a hero's duty to keep people safe at any cost. Momo articulates as she clasps her hand with conviction. Thank you, all of you, for sticking with me. Izuku states as they all reciprocate the kindness on their own way. Enough emotions, you lot. She's here. Aizawa states as he gazes into the sky. Who's here? Sue asked before immediately getting her answer. Crash. As a large metallic object smashes into the group in front of them. Hey guys. A voice came from the dust. As the dust and debris settled, the metallic object walked out the cloud, and what the students saw astounded them. What stood before them was an 8-foot-tall silver humanoid robot, with large shoulders, glowing pink accents, a T-shaped visor, and a sword strapped to its back. Holy hell, is that you, Melissa? Mina asked in awe of the machine. Got that right, Mina. This is Platinum Paladin, a fully remote-controlled drone capable of raining down vengeance upon the enemies of justice. Melissa announced something caught the class's attention. What inspired this? Izuku asked. Well, you see you did, Izuku. Melissa admitted. Really? Izuku asked. Yes. You see, after your speech in my lab, I felt inspired beyond words and created blueprints. And after what happened at the tower, I kinda needed something to distract myself, and well, here we are. Melissa explained as the class listened. So manly, Kirishima whispered, and the class agreed. Wait, she called it a drone? You mean you're not inside that thing? Kaminari asked. Of course not. You think it's possible to create a suit of armor this advanced with a power source small enough to fit a human inside? Totally ridiculous. Melissa explains through the machine. So cool. Zero announced as they all admired the machine. So wait, hold on. Where are you right now? Jiro asked. I'm currently in a custom facility, hooked up to a haptic feedback suit, with a VR headset and rigged up in a geosphere substation. Melissa explained as her drone projected a holographic feed of where he was. Is that comfortable? Zero asked. Surprisingly so. Melissa answered. Well, come on, Melissa, give us the rundown on this thing. Izuku requested as he pulled a notebook from somewhere. With pleasure. It was as far as Melissa got before she was suddenly struck by a punk-haired warhead. Crash. Who crashed into the machine at full speed before molesting it. What is this appealing baby? It's so sleek, so advanced, so cute. Tell me everything. A certain May Hatsum exposited as she crueler all over the drone like a koala. Hatsum, what are you doing here? Actually, how did you even know this was here? Momo asked. My baby sense altered me to the existence of this appealing machine. Now, tell me your secrets. May replies before looking the machine in the eyes and demanding it forfeit its blueprint. Mr. Aizawa, is she allowed to be here? Melissa asked through the drone as she tried to pry May off her. Normally no, however. I just got a text from Power Loader, and well. Aizawa replied as he showed his phone to his class. It read, let the crazy woman watch. It's only been an hour, and she's already driving me to alcoholism. If you not keep her, I'll spread unscrupulous rumors about you and Mike. Ah, I see. Ida stated as he read the message, and his classmates all agreed. All right then, Melissa, please continue. And as for you, Hatsum. Izuku interjected as he pried May from the drone. You are going to watch from a safe distance. Izuku asserted as May pouted at him. Thank you, Izuku. Now then, as I was saying, this is Platinum Paladin, a remote operations mech drone, or ROMD. It's armored with reinforced titanium and laminated in both Kevlar and graphene, making it nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. Its visor grants me 360-degree vision, increased accuracy with targeting and highlighting, can scan DNA and weaknesses, as well as see on infrared and night vision. Its hydraulic systems give it enough strength to crumble concrete and penetrate metal, as well as leap several stories. Finally powered by a hydrogen fuel cell that can last up to 4 days. Melissa explained as she had the drone pose for viewing. That's so cool. Mina cried out excitedly. A machine conceived in the mind of true genius. Tokoyami stated. So manly. Kirishima exclaimed. This baby is incredible. But what about weapons? May asked. I'm glad you asked, May. As you can see, Platinum Paladin has a sword. But not just any sword. Oh no. Its blade is comprised of carbon fiber edged with graphene and sharpened to a monomolecular blade. It also gives off a small magnetic field to overcome the van der Waals force when cutting things. Melissa explained as she cleaved through a mock car, using technical jargon that none of them other than May understood. The class all looked astounded, but before they could voice their opinions, Melissa continued. But wait, there are more. Melissa stated, causing Aizawa to groan in defeat as the drone's thighs opened to reveal twin pistols. These are laser-ionized plasma guns, or lip guns for short. They intake and compress air in the atmosphere and use a laser to ionize it to create plasma bolts. Melissa explained as she demonstrated by shooting a nearby building. That is so cool. Mine cheered as she watched the machine. I concur, it is rather impressive. Ida added. It's so sleek. Kaminari adds. So powerful. Mineta adds. So cool. Zero adds. Just another thing to me more irrelevant. Several students think simultaneously. Glad you all like it. Now fight it. Aizawa interjects. Wait, what? Melissa asked. We've already seen how your little machine holds up against robots. Now it's time to actually challenge it. Midoriya disarm her. Aizawa explains before giving Izuku an order. Faster than her sensors could detect, Izuku suddenly kicked for her grasp and set it flying into a far-off building. As for what that challenge will be, Aizawa says as he looked towards his class. They all suddenly shiver as they guess what his plan was. You all have 30 minutes to disable that machine, or I'll have you all training in the cold zone of the USJ for a week. Aizawa points as he steps back. The class all then immediately looked towards the drone with vicious stares as nobody, not even Todoroki, wanted to endure the cold zone that much. Guys, why are you all looking at me like that? Melissa asked in a rather frightened voice. Begin, Aizawa says, causing the entire class to rush Platinum Paladin. Eek! Melissa squealed as she jumped backwards using the drone's hydraulics. But she wasn't fast enough as Todoroki created an ice bridge up to her, and Momo ran across it too. Used a palm strike to launch the drone into a building. The class then threw everything they had at their new classmate. Everything from grenades to acid, to fire and rocks, to dark shadows, and even more rocks. Melissa did her best to maneuver and dive between the attacks, but her lack of combat skills and inexperience made it difficult to do so. Eventually, she was knocked out the air and attacked by Sato, who was backed up by Ojiro and Ida. The three of them attacked with relentless force, using speed and power to overwhelm her. Immediately, Melissa countered using basic boxing techniques to generate some distance, but that didn't end up helping much. As soon as she broke away from the trio, she was set upon by Kaminari, Mineta, Tokoimi, and Tsu. She saw Kaminari charging a lighting attack and tried to flee, only to find her feet stuck to ground by several purple ball. The attack was unleashed, and due to her haptic feedback, she felt the simulated shock of the attack, which completely stunned her, leaving her wide open to a melee pincer attack from Tsu and Tokoimi. She eventually managed to break out of the combo by rerouting her drone's power through theirs armor and shocking the combo duo, giving her time to make an escape. This exchange of several classmates teaming up to disable her drone continued for 18 minutes straight, and it was taking a toll on her. As the fight wore on, Melissa encountered a rather significant issue with her design. Whilst her machine wasn't susceptible to exhaustion as it was mechanical, she as a human most certainly was, and with all the movement she was doing to control her drone, she was getting rather tried. Meanwhile, the entire class all looked ready to go another round. Her classmates were all experienced in the ways of fighting in one way or another, and had combat experience with real villains. She, on the other hand, only had basic self-defense skills and a machine that didn't grant as much of an advantage as she had hoped it would. Eventually, after another 6 minutes of continuous assault, the drone was finally disabled thanks to Zero binding it with tape, Mina obscuring its visor with viscous acid, and Momo slapping an electromagnet on its head. Stop. The exercise is over. It's good to see none of you got rusty during the summer. Aizawa states as he looks at his class. Congratulations, you guys don't have to worry about the cold zone. Aizawa states as they class sigh with relief. Instead, you've earned a week in the fire zone. Dismissed. Aizawa continued as he turned to Melissa's drone, leaving his class exhausted and frustrated. As for you, you have a modicum of potential, Aizawa stated as he leaned over the fallen machine. Third-person POV. After being thoroughly tested and utterly defeated, Melissa emerged from her control room in an exhausted state. She complained about aching muscles, her haptic suit sticking to her, and neck pain from the VR headset. Aizawa then showed his characteristic kindness and compassion by criticizing her lack of stamina and giving her a new intensive workout schedule to maximize her potential. Following that, the class was sent back to the dorms to wait until the next day when lecturer would properly begin. Until then, they had a few things to do. First of, groceries. The pantry was empty of all sustenance, and that was unacceptable. So the class got together to discuss a list of desirable food items and future meals they wanted. There was much debate over things such as cereal, meats, and flavor of fizzy drinks, even getting somewhat heated at some points. Best not remember that interaction. Moving swiftly onwards, after the list was complete, next came the group who would go and buy it. The university had provided them with an allowance to use, and it initially seemed generous until it became clear it was rather tight for a budget to feed 21 people. Immediately, Momo, Ida, and Todoroki were banned since their wealthier upbringings would burn through the budget unknowingly. In a similar vein, Yururika was placed in charge of the group due to her poorer upbringing, which would mean she'd get the best possible deals. After that, picking the rest of the group was easy, and with that they were sent on their way. After that, the class all mingled around for the rest of the day. Some relaxed, some prepared, some futilely tried hitting on Melissa, and some just played video games. Eventually, the evening came, and Inko made dinner for everyone. Now, seeing as they'd all tasted Izuku's cooking back at camp, many expected the food to taste similar. Boy, were they in for a surprise. Please enjoy, Inko says as everyone digs in. Everyone then took a bite of food. It's delicious. The class all cried out simultaneously, and were all immediately blown away at how amazing Inko's cooking was. Dude Midoriya, your mother is a saint, Kaminari states as he eats with tears in his eyes. He's right. I can never go back to anyone else's cooking ever again. Mina adds as she shoves her face into the bowl. It surpasses anything my parents' staff could produce. Momo added in between mouthfuls of food. It's perfect, Todoroki states with single shed tear as he ate his cold soba. Inko had made everyone's favorite foods, and it was clear their lives were forever chanted by this meal. I'm glad everyone is happy, Inko states humbly with a kind smile as she helps Eri with her food. Homeroom. After yesterday's commotion and divine dinner, the class was hoping for a less stressful start to their new semester. Oh boy, were they in for a rough surprise. I'd say it's all nice to have you all back in an official capacity, but I hate to lie, actually scratch that. I love to lie, it's great to see you all. But anyway, I have a few announcements to make. Aizawa explains as they all sat in homeroom. First of all, you'll be having a lecture to create your super moves later this week with ectoplasm for your heroics class. He explained as everyone got excited about creating cool new techniques, especially after the grueling training they'd been through. Aizawa then rattled off a few more topics of some significance. Changes to the university menus, guest lecturers, a new rule about quirk clothing requirements, and lastly, in 1 month, you'll all be taking the provisional licensing exam. Aizawa concluded lazily as he lay down for a nap. What? The whole class cried out. So, this was the end of part 11 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.